Assalamu alaikum. Today we're gonna be talking about pivot tables. So what is the concept of pivot tables? You may say that pivot tables is the same as the group by function in the group by method that we took previously, but it still has some changes, or it varies. It varies from the group by method. It's not the same. So let's check what are the differences and interact with pivot tables. So yes, here first thing obviously we're importing the important stuff. We're gonna be manipulating a sales funnel file. Okay, this is our data frame that we're gonna interact with today. So what is a pivot table? We can run a help method, the help method, to make us understand pivot method more. So the pivot method reshapes data based on columns, values, and reassignment of the index. Keep in mind, it doesn't always make sense to pivot data. In our machine learning lessons, we will see that. Okay, so pivot tables, as I said, it's the same as group by, and that's about it. So let's see. Imagine we wanted to know how many licenses of each product type did Google purchase. Currently, the way the data is formatted is hard to read. Let's pivot it so this is clear. We will take a subset of the data for the question at the hand. So how are we supposed to do this? Let's see. So here the question that we have is the Google purchases. So here we have companies, for example, and here we have Google. But we want to check the purchase. What did they purchase? So they purchased. They have stuff like the products that they purchased. For example, now it's analytics, prediction, tracking. We wanna count the licenses that they used. Okay. So how are we supposed to do this? So, for example, let's take a subset, otherwise we'll get an error due to duplicate rows and data. So, for example, now we just created a variable with company, product, and license, and now we have a new table. So let's see what do we wanna interact with. So now we passed the pd.pivot command or method, and the data that we want to use is licenses. We want it to be licenses, so everything that was here will be our values inside here. Okay, this is easy. Our index will be the company, so this column will be turned into our index and will be the column, our index, sorry. And for the columns we chose products. So in products we have many subsets or many different values like analytics, prediction, tracking, and many other stuff. So you can say for us to get this table we used the group by function once, sorry. We made to get the product like this, to make it the columns. So yes, and we made our values the license as we can see here in this table. So this is how to use a pivot table. it makes you it's easier for you to manipulate the columns and be able to see what you want to do. That pivot table method, similar to the pivot method, the pivot table can add functions to a pivot pivot code. So the only difference between a pivot table and the normal pivot method is here I can't, for example, use dot sum. Okay, I won't be able to use it. Usually this is not possible, okay, but there should be a better way to use it, which is by using the pivot table, okay, because as you can see when I typed dot sum, it removed the table, but this is not what we want, so there is an alternative for it. And how can we do this? We will check it together now. So this is our normal data. Okay, so now notice account numbers, some doesn't make sense to keep / use. Okay, let's give. So here we use the pivot table. Okay, the df stands for the data we want to use. Okay, and we made the index. We made our index as the company column, and we want to use the aggregate function sum. We want to sum whatever everything that is there. So the account number got summed. Okay, which really doesn't make sense, but يعني we'll check how to leave a column later on. But what we wanted, the license got summed up. If we check here, for example, this table, the table that we want to interact with, here Google used 150, which adds up to 300, and 300 here licenses, so it's 600. So this is correct, and it also adds up the sales price according to the licenses that Google has. Here, for example, we want to grab the columns, either grab columns. So here what we did is pd.pivot table, the data we want to interact with. We made company our index again, and we wanted to sum everything, but we don't want to include the account number. We only want to include the licenses and sales price, sale price. So we type it out like this, and it only gives us the total or the sum of licenses and sale price. Okay, or save them as wanted values. Yeah, so this is a different way of writing it. So instead of just writing it outside of the bracket, we can just write it instantly inside the bracket as the values, like this. This is another way of writing this code, so it doesn't really matter. This is also another way to write it. So this is what I meant by pivot table and group by is the same. So for example, it's only a difference of how you write it, but pivot table has some advantages over group by method. So yeah, this is what I meant if we wanted to use group by to do the same thing. Pivot table. In pivot table, what's nice about it is also, just like group by, is that we can we can choose multiple columns to be our index. So in this case, we chose account manager and contact as our indexes, and the values that we want to interact with is sale price. Okay, and the function we want to use is sum. So as we can see here, it got carried out as we wanted. Columns are optional. They provide an additional way to segment the actual values you care about. The aggregation functions are applied to the values you list. In this case, we still have account manager and contact as our index. The values we want to use is still sale price that we want to interact with, but this time we're using a new function or a new sub method called columns, and we gave it product. So instead of having it like this, having the products, wait, sorry. So for us to have a better breakdown of what's being bought and what's not, we can make the products be as columns, and as you can see, it will be here. And for example, we gave it the sum function from numpy, and it gave us a breakdown of what was bought, what product was bought for each for each contact and each account manager. So this to have a better understanding of the data or the table you want to create. Here we have account table. We have another table with everything similar, but the only difference is instead of the instances in this table, for example, we had none or none values. We just added the fill value equal to 0 to make it look better instead of none values. Can add multiple functions, aggregate functions. So here, instead of only just having the sum function, we can also add the mean function if we wanted. So if you can see with me, the table is now broken into two tables. Okay, if you really check it out, the rows are still the same, but the only difference is, for example, it ends. Where does it end? So we saw. So this is a product column as we wanted. Starts at analytics. So yeah, this column. Sorry. So from product to tracking is the column for sum, as we can see here, and from analytics, this analytics to tracking, this is the mean side. So these numbers represent the sum over here. Okay, and these number over here represent the mean of everything else for analytics, GPS positioning, prediction, tracking, and so on. We can add multiple columns to interact with. So in this case, we just can add on multiple columns. So our index is still the same: account manager and contact value. Yeah. What does it mean by we can add multiple columns is, for example, now in the values we want not only the sale price but also the licenses. So where is it? Sale price. So the licenses are over here. Okay. So yeah, here only we wanted the sum, not the sum and mean. So it's broken down. This side is the licenses and this side is the sale price. Okay. So as we can see here, all of these are the licenses still tracking, which is 150, 450, 0, 300, 300. And this side is for the sale price, the sum of the sale price from here till here. Yes, these are where you can interact with pivot tables. So you can add on multiple columns. So yeah, in this case we're having we're having 3 columns be our index. So in this case we're having account manager, contact, and product. So this time, instead of having our product as a column, we're having it as an index, and we're saying that we want the values, okay, as sale price, and licenses. And as we can see, the aggregate function is sum, mp.sum, and the fill values is equal to 0. So as we can see, everything here is summed up as it's supposed to be. Get final all with margins equal true can add. So now we have another method that we're going to learn about, which is margins. So it gives us the sum of everything. So for example, in this case, it's similar to this table. It's the same thing, but the only difference is we added margins equals true. So here we have a last row at the end of the table. It tells us all. So what does this all do? Is, for example, it sums up all of the licenses that you have and gives you the total at the bottom. Same thing for the sale price. It sums everything up and gives you the total beneath it. Yeah, we have this is a smaller table so you can understand it a bit. Of index equal to account manager and status. This time we have the values as sale price here, and we have the function as sum. Everything is summed up. We have the fill value is 0 in case of non values, and the margins equal true, which gives us the total of everything that's summed up over here. And this is how you interact or use pivot tables in Pandas. Thank you.